Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak, this 6th day of May 2024. Mheshimiwa Eden Kenan, good morning.
Good morning.
How have you been?
I can only say, mashallah, we thank God.
Yeah?
Yes.
Great. Mheshimiwa Coach, it's been a while.
It has been. I was here last when we had the bad news of the general.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been okay, save for the flood.
I see you cleared the Mabalozi.
Yes, we did.
Starting their missions. How soon? I saw the appointment, but when do they depart?
I'm not sure about the exact date, but they were doing their training.
Yeah.
They've been doing some training in somewhere in Karen before they finally deploy their stations. They were gazetted last Friday. A Gazette notice that, of course, had an error, which was revoked again, and a new Gazette notice was issued subsequently, ushering in their deployment.
Okay. Of course, to make that correction about Vincent Kemosi?
Yes.
Okay. What could have gone wrong there?
It is, I mean, it happens most accidentally, and it's probably an omission. But it also tells you that there's a lot of lazy people, because that's a serious document. Like, by the time you submit names, and I mean, this is a name of someone who did not, actually should have been an eye-catcher for anyone who was trying to send the names. That, of course, Kemosi had not even come for interview. He had declined the nomination by the president, the appointment rather by the president. And of course, someone should have noticed it. So it tells you that there are extremely many lazy people who are sitting in either in the government printer or the officers who are responsible for submitting the names to the government printer.
Who signs off the publication?
It cannot be Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So ordinarily, after we finish the vetting and the names are approved, they will be sent back to the office of the president. That is State House, I would expect that some officers in State House, because it has to go to, I will think, the head of public service. And of course, the head of public service works with many other officers to make sure that that name is sent to government printer for printing.
I guess what I'm asking is, because you see, once the government printer receives information, their work is to publish. And you just publish what you've received.
Yeah.
So who is that who prepares the list?
It should have come from the head of public service.
So how do they account for that?
Yeah, it's a terrible mistake. I saw it and made frantic calls. I actually called the PS, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and he told me, no, it has nothing to do with him. The names are sent elsewhere. So it was a concern. It was a concern to many people. Many people reached out and asked me. I mean, even in most online, most WhatsApp groups, you could see them being shared, that the president has appointed someone who even declined the offer. I mean, it doesn't look good. That the president's name has to pop up.
Right.
Yet the officers who've been given that mandate of ensuring that the names that are sent to the government printer are the names that are accurate and those ones that have been vetted. It is a very, very serious omission. It tells you, I mean, you will have to look at many other things that might have happened that even went unnoticed. I mean, every time that board members are appointed or different, people are appointed to different organizations, and the names have to come from the different officers and have to be sent to the government printer. Then, of course, there might have been names that have been sneaked in or names that are not even supposed to have been there, but people have not noticed. This one was noticeable because it was an issue that had come out in the public limelight. So it is unfortunate, and I think those officers who are responsible should account for it. Okay.
Well, all right. I don't know if you, Honorable Kenan, you have anything to say about that. We are talking about Vincent Kemosi, whose name had appeared in a Gazette notice appointing him to that position, despite him saying he was not interested in the job.
I think in public service, due diligence is very, 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 very important, especially a document that carries the name of His Excellency the President, must at all times be taken through a thorough process so that the end results projects what was intended. Yes, mistakes happen, but I think that's a very serious document that ought to have gone, and it must have gone through actually certain stages. So as to why those who are in charge of those stages did not find, because it's a serious mistake, and actually it portrays lack of thoroughness, lack of efficiency, and all manner of hopelessness. So I think in future, such serious but petty mistakes should not be accepted in the transaction of government business.
Okay. All right. But also, Mheshimiwa Koch, because we haven't spoken to you since the vetting exercise, there were concerns that some of the nominees, now appointees, did not display some good depth of issues that they were going to deal with, especially in their host countries. But then they were still cleared. How did that happen?
You see, unfortunately, and I think we will take it extremely seriously. First of all, there is no really minimum requirement for anyone to be appointed as an ambassador. The Constitution does not give the minimum requirement. So anyone, either with a Form 4 certificate or any other qualification, will qualify to be a diplomat, which is extremely unfortunate. And that MFA Act has to be amended to be in tandem with what is happening globally. Number two, the responsibility of our committee, which Kainan also has chaired before, Honorable Kainan has chaired before, is to ascertain the suitability based on a certain criteria, the understanding of the stations they are being posted to, the language, the Foreign Affairs Act on what a diplomat should be doing, and general evaluation of knowledge and depth of knowledge of diplomacy. To be very honest, I'll tell you that, it's a responsibility of the president to appoint, but you saw, we even rejected one. We will have gone for more, but we are hindered by the fact that there is no really requirement as such. So if someone is proficient in speaking English and Kiswahili, and in fact some will drop French to the stations that are being posted, as a committee, we looked at the overall, we looked overally what an individual is capable. In my view, looking at what is happening, and I want to compare ourselves with the United States, for instance, and look at Meg Whitman as an ambassador from the US in Kenya. And I watched her when she was in the Silicon Valley, and the way she projected the image of this country, the way she spoke about Kenya, the way she spoke about investment opportunities in Kenya. Even without a doubt, any investor will want to invest in Kenya because of that pitch that she did. My question will be, will our ambassadors able to pitch for this country the way Meg Whitman or many other diplomats will have done? That is a question. So diplomacy has changed.
And what is your answer?
We have vetted diplomats that are extremely, extremely knowledgeable. Okay? Yeah. There's, for instance, I would say in the last interview that we did, Moi Lerashima, Lemoshira, sorry, a seasoned ambassador. There are individuals who can speak, who understand diplomacy, people who have grown in the diplomacy. My question will be then, is it not disenfranchising for the people who have been waiting for so long to be diplomats, and then you have other people that are who are picked from elsewhere to come and join diplomacy, yet they truly do not understand diplomacy. And at some point, they have to go through training. Again, that's not my call to make. That's the responsibility of the head of state. And my responsibility as a member of parliament is just to oversight and help him get the best of what is picked. And that is why there's a provision that they must come to parliament for vetting. So many. And even in our recommendation, if you read our committee's report, this one was one of the most detailed reports that we have ever written. We said that we insist that as they make appointments, they should try as much as possible to pick those who are in the diplomatic circle, who are existing. Do you know there are people who already are having the title ambassador, but they are still stagnating there in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, waiting to be deployed? Why then should we go out and pick for individuals, either politicians or retirees, and have them again join the diplomatic corps against the people who are on the line waiting to be made diplomats? In my view, or a respectful view, I find that to be extremely unfair. And that is why, even as we go on making legislation, it is important also that as Parliament, we are able to enact laws that now are in favor of people already in the system in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so that their responsibility is simply to be escalated up and become diplomats.
So
look at the name of the nominee for Goma, for instance. With all due respect again, he has no problem. He was just picked. He came before our committee, and he was very candid. We asked him question, what is the GDP? He didn't understand the GDP. How were you picked? He said, I don't even know I was picked. I was just called and told, do you want to be an ambassador? Yes. And then I was told, be an ambassador. So what qualification do you possess, my brother? He said, I only have Form 4 certificate, which he had, a D or D minus. And that is a consul general we are interviewing for, we are vetting for a serious mission in Goma, Democratic Republic of Congo. And which have you ever been diplomatic circle? He said, no, but 2 weeks ago, we were taken through induction by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Another mistake. Why will the Ministry of Foreign Affairs prepare people who've been nominated to take up positions of diplomacy? And the gentleman eventually said, and it's not about me, really, to be honest. You guys can decide. If you want me to go, it's okay. If you don't want me to go, it is perfectly okay. He did not have an issue. In fact, at some point, Sam, I almost cut the vetting short because it was becoming extremely embarrassing, and I'm sure many other people were watching. Many children could be watching, for heaven's sake. Why would we want to take the poor fellow through all this process? Yet we were almost certain at that point that we were not going to give him the position. So it tells you, I mean, and again, like Honorable Kainani is saying, it puts the name of the president on focus by different actors. People who are watching. People are like, I mean, honestly, by the time when we come up with his name, what is going through the minds of the people who send us these names? So the quality of the people that we nominate for diplomatic missions must be those ones of people who understand their responsibility. First, as marketing Kenya, and number two, the face of the president and the face of the country. We will help the president in making sure that he gets it right. And that is
I hear you making a very eloquent statement about what should be, but I'm also wondering, so you're casting doubt that some of the nominees, or some of the appointees now, can actually represent the country in a manner that you may have seen with Meg Whitman representing even the issues of Kenya. Why then approve them?
Because I think it would be unfair also not to approve them for as long as they meet the threshold that is required. I mean, when a student gets an A or a B or a C+, they go to university. You know, it's not that they are perfect. Some A's someone will have probably got 100%, another one has got a 92%, another one, that's still an A. But that is not to say that you do not meet the threshold. You meet the threshold, but we want them to continue.
But the people's representatives who sit in the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee do not feel confident that they are going to do justice to the job.
On the stations that have been posted, they met the threshold. There is a lot of training that is still going to go on with these individuals. It is not just about being picked and then they are sent to the station. There's a lot of training. Some is a huge responsibility, to be very honest. I mean, these are the accounting of
Wait, ordinarily how it works, even in the public service, and I'm sure you know this, you're assessed in an interview, you display competence and you know what you're coming to do. If you don't get the job. They don't pick you to tell you that we're going to train you on the job. It's either you have the skill or you don't. But those we approved. This one looks like Mabalozi.
No.
You just need to speak English.
No, those we approved are perfect. I mean, they are not perfect. Those we approved met the threshold. Their suitability was not in question.
What is the threshold? Sorry.
Like I told you, there is really no minimum requirement in terms of academic requirements to be a diplomat, to be an ambassador. So the minimum threshold then will be, is someone able to express themselves? Is someone able to learn on the job? Is someone quick in general knowledge, for instance? Because that is exactly what we're going for. I mean, we will ask for GDP of a certain country, what we intend to benefit from this country against what Kenya will benefit. What are some of the attributes that you know of a particular state or particular country? In putting this situation, what will happen? I'll tell you, for instance, last parliament, we vetted Ambassador Mwende Mwinzi, which will go to South Korea.
Yeah.
Mwende Mwinzi at that time, had a dual citizenship. That is the United States and Kenya. When asked, who will you pay the taxes to? Because you're also a taxpayer in the US and in Kenya. She was hard pressed to explain. Number two, looking at a situation today where you are pressed and a determination has to be made between Kenya and the US. As an ambassador of Kenya to South Korea, you have to step in. On which country's best interest on which country will your decision be based on? The children are in the US and you're our ambassador. I mean, those are extremely serious conflicting issues that were raised. So such situations come up, but that does not mean that the person is not competent. No, they are competent for as far as what you want is concerned, but there are so many other underlying issues that as a committee we look at.
Okay, Mheshimiwa Kedan, so you're able to express yourself, you're able to learn, you get a job. He says there's no threshold, but he appears to have a threshold. So from your experience, how should you determine whether someone is fit to be an ambassador or not? And does it really make sense to even do the vetting?
Under the Vienna Convention, ambassadors or high commissioners represent the head of state and head of government, meaning therefore whatever they do must project, promote, and protect the image of the head of state or head of government and the country that they represent. That's why they carry the flag. Okay? That's why they fly the flag of the state. But that being the case, I have a definitional problem. First of all, if you look at the president or the head of government in a Kenya situation, the president is both the head of state and head of government, and is the head of a political grouping. To that extent, he has every right to nominate individuals to occupy those positions. But those individuals must meet the basic constitutional threshold to serve either as a public officer or as a state officer. And that's what Honorable Koech is alluding to. But I think the framers of the current constitution were also kind to both the head of the executive and the members of parliament. That is why the head of the executive nominates, parliament vets. And what do you vet? The suitability of the person nominated by the head of the executive. So it's a process. So if at any given stage, the chair and his committee members will have realized that a particular individual nominated does not have the requisite academic, professional skills to project Kenya in the manner expected of a diplomat, they had every right to say this person is not qualified, notwithstanding the basic threshold. So my definitional problem is every public servant or state officer must have certain basic preparedness. But all is not lost. These people have been nominated, vetted, approved. They can now be reassigned based on. They can now be reassigned. It's not all. It's not like you have to go to that particular station where you have been nominated. The president now can reassign them. For example, if you have been nominated and vetted to go to Washington, now you can be posted to a different station because meaning you qualify. So all is not lost. But I think the bottom line is, since the emphasis is on economic diplomacy, what do we expect from this diplomat? And I like the way somebody has put it the other day, that these diplomats must add value to our national economic well-being. And how do they add value? They must project Kenya in every economic platform, in every platform that they're expected to represent Kenya. It's no longer ideological representation. It's business economic representation. So if you don't have...
Yet from the vetting process, you could tell that some of them, I'm just trying not to name names, but some of them you could tell they do not have that ability to even describe those issues of economy.
Allow me to say this. As the chairman of this great committee, it's called a premier committee. Actually, in the developed world, is the first committee. Unfortunately, in the Kenya scenario, it's not. We pushed it to that level.
Please give me the answer, Honorable Kenan.
The answer is, these people will be subjected to a training, I think about 6 months through the Defense College. Yes. Unless one is an idiot. 6 months, serious training. I believe they will learn a lot.
6 months?
I think it's about 6 or 3 months.
When do they begin working?
They will be trained. I don't know the period. Let me not say this. But I know after this, they'll be trained, they'll be subjected, they'll be given an issue, they'll be given a certificate. There's a period that they go through. Because diplomacy is a specialized field. So they'll be trained. I think it's used by the Defense College or Nairobi University. They'll be trained.
Okay.
And the ministry has this college. What do they call this course? They have specialists actually.
All right.
Who train them. So once they go through.
What is interesting here, Honorable Kenan, I want to also welcome Honorable Beatrice Alachi from Dagoretti North. She's joined us this morning. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Morning.
What is interesting here is that you have people who are trained in matters foreign relations and diplomacy, some of them actually to master's level, even PhD level. They are bypassed to pick some people who do not have the depth of the knowledge that is required to be a diplomat. And now the country has to spend, you're saying, up to 6 months training them? Really? Is that
I think get this. Let me answer you this. The government of the Republic of Kenya is a political government, just like any other government in the world. Look at the trend of appointments of ambassadors and high commissioners or diplomatic representatives. Generally, it's a blend. You have career diplomats, you have also political appointees.
I have no problem with that. And
even these lists that you see are not all political appointees. Big chunk of them are career diplomats. So meaning, therefore, that plan is going to project. But the emphasis.
Mheshimiwa Kenan, you're talking about a list that we saw being vetted on screen. And some of these political appointees, as you call them, do not display any knowledge about what they're going to do.
That we're in agreement. Being appointed. You see,
Sorry, Honorable Kenan. What I'm asking is, does it make sense that you have people that are actually qualified to do those jobs, but you have to give a politician who can be trained within 6 months, as you say?
And the answer is this.
Yeah.
The answer is this. This is a political government that represents the face of Kenya. They are politicians. The government has responsibilities. Equally, they are also professional who have been serving, professionals in the public service who are serving in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The list that I saw is a blend, is a mixture. They are career public servants, diplomats, they're also political appointees. And I think that's what all democracies do. The training is a requirement, it's all over the world. I don't know whether it's 3 months or not. I think you have decided to run away with the 6 months. I don't know whether it's 6 months.
Figure, you said it.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's 6 months or 3 months, but there's a period that they are trained. In that particular period, they are prepared to be diplomat. And to be a diplomat,
yep,
there are special skills. Those special skills, unless one is a fool, whether it's 1 month or 3 months or 6 months, when you'll be taken through the niceties, the etiquette,
yep,
the procedures, it's just like here. You are trained as a communicator. You have a degree in communication. But by the time you decided to join Citizen, there are particular norms that are peculiar or unique to Citizen that you go through. That does not completely take you off the radar of your educational qualification. You still remain the same person who has a very good degree, first class from one university. So those niceties help you now conform to the in-house rules of Citizen. And that's why those individuals, I'm not worried. Right. Let them be assessed. This is my closing remark on this. The chairman, that report was very comprehensive, I must also admit. And I've also added some of the individuals who are ill-equipped. I think it is the high time, having been as nominated, having been vetted, having been subjected to public participation, that itself now will allow the appointing authority to further assess and reassign them and repost them to stations where they think they can best
Don't you think that
serve.
thing would have been to reject them and allow the appointing authority to pick people that are fit for those particular postings? Because there has to be a reason why the president will pick Aden Kenan and post him to, for instance, Cairo.
There's also something called Fair Administrative Action Act.
Oh, God.
So you must also, when you reject somebody, you're also condemning that particular person. I think the committee...
Mheshimiwa Kenan, that does not apply until you get the job, but it is okay. Mheshimiwa Alachi, good morning and welcome to the show. So Parliament approved the appointment, the nominations of this Mabalozi. What is it?
Can she apologize for coming late?
I'll give her the chance to make her consideration. But so Parliament approved the nomination of this high commissioners and ambassadors, and they were gazetted. And the chairman here, I don't know whether you heard him saying that he doesn't believe some of these appointees can represent Kenya in the manner that what he has seen with Meg Whitman representing Kenya. Can you imagine that? But so now, what are we supposed to do? And what do you think is the role of Parliament, especially when the members feel some of these nominees are ill-equipped to do the job?
Well, thank you. I had to start with my daughter to see a doctor before she gets to school. That's why, but that's an issue. For me, I think, first of all, you see, in diplomacy, there are so many things that you look at. It's not even about just your qualifications. It starts with we normally say the interview has to start with your attitude, your temperaments, and how you have been doing so many things in the country based on, because people read you. They look at, nowadays we look first on what you've been doing on social media before we even think of you of anything. And that is how unfortunate some of these interviews are. But that is what people are doing. And then we look at, it looks at so many things. After that, then you look at your papers, fine. If your papers, we cannot determine your papers. So you will have to go through a thorough of questions. For me, one of the things that the executive should start doing, and I will agree with Chairman, that you might bring a name in Parliament, yes. Parliament is political. People start looking at, oh, this is our region. I don't know, this is what we are, and that's the most unfortunate thing. But that's how Parliament will look at it. So if you are bringing names, first do your vetting there, especially in diplomacy, because you are going to be the flag of the country, the brand of Kenya. You are supposed to stand in when Kenya is being talked on. You are supposed now to bring in.
So when such a person is not
Kenya
able to express themselves on how they're going to represent Kenya, what should Parliament do?
Well, you see now, it is you as the executive, my president, who is now appointing you. When he realizes that, how I wish he can just stop from there. Because he's the one who...
But I think there's something that has been introduced recently, performance contracting.
You know?
No, before then, you see, Honorable Elachi, what I'm saying here is, so the president has done his job, which is to...
No, he has not done his job. He has just sent names. And then we will do the job and tell him, oh.
Let me frame the question. So the president has made his considerations.
Okay, yes.
Picked someone sent to Parliament for approval.
Yes.
And you're guided by a law on how to do the vetting.
Yeah.
So if you realize that someone is not, does not display proper competence about what they are going to do, what are you supposed to do really? Is it just to be political and tell the president, okay, fine, go ahead and appoint them?
No, but I believe in the report they have written. What I realized, and when I realized even someone who never came for vetting is now on the list, I realized, are we joking? I mean, people, the executive tries to joke with Parliament. It means they don't read the reports.
And that was corrected. So the question is, even...
No, you corrected after people reminded you that one of your nominees was never vetted, and how has he ended up in a Gazette notice? It means you just took the same way it came. The same way. You never read the report. So this is what I'll tell.
That's what I'm asking. Even if you write very detailed reports as Parliament, if you don't pass a resolution to reject, what are you telling the appointing authority?
Well, they rejected a few. One.
You know what I'm talking about, Honorable Elachi?
I know.
That there are people that came to the panel and they didn't display competence or as suitable, what is the word, sufficient information about their deployment.
Yes.
But Parliament approved with some notes.
Yes.
The approval is an approval. It doesn't matter, really, does it?
No, it matters.
How?
It matters if, indeed, we had a very good relationship between the executive in terms of you looking at, even when the interviews are going on, definitely you will see, because the interviews are done or on media. I mean, everyone is able to see this interview. And so if Kenyans are already telling you, this is not a right person, without being biased in terms of political, then, because one of the things we will face as Parliament, and I think that is why sometimes we send it back for them now to do the right decision, is because when you do it directly as Parliament, in many of these appointees also, you find people now starting to blame you. You're thinking you're playing politics with them. Okay. So the best is do a good report, but return it and say, look, We have interviewed 29 people. Among those 29, in the countries you have sent them, kindly, just note, they will not be able to represent you in the right way.
Yet you say, all the same, we approve.
Well, I'm not saying all the same. Now that we have learned from the lessons that you can just approve and send with the reports, then they will just do it until people shout again on outside there on social media. Then is when you rectify.
Okay.
Then from going forward, I think we just need to say when it is no, it's no. And when it is right, it's right. And,
okay. All right.
Yeah, but I'm hoping they will go for a serious training. I am hoping that these ambassadors, it's not a joke. They have to go. Okay, there are two things that I've realized, and I will want to tell government. There's the Kenya Government School. When you are a civil servant, even our CSS, please go there for 3 months. Nobody needs to know. We went there. That's how we learned how to work with the technical teams in government.
Is it mandatory or it's voluntary?
It is mandatory. It's only that now I don't know how it is going, but it's mandatory.
Well, for the training ambassadors, it's a training, it's a program.
And then when you come out, you will absolutely understand moving forward. And I'm hoping wherever they are not just enjoying they are going to be ambassadors. Start learning that country.
Okay.
You can arrive there and they tell you they don't need you, by the way. They know people normally, even as we normally reject. Have they ever known that? So you can arrive and they reject you.
All right. So the issues for consideration by Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act is the procedure used to arrive at the nominee. Secondly, any constitutional or statutory requirements relating to the office in question. And 3, the suitability of the nominee for the appointment proposed, having regard to whether the nominee's abilities, experience, and qualities meet the needs of the body to which nomination is being made. I think they're just those 3, unless I'm mistaken, Chairman.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so decisions were made. We're taking a short break. The front page of the Standard is a cabinet of blunders. They are saying that cabinet secretaries in President Ruto's administration under fire from the opposition, parliament and citizens over the manner in which they have handled their dockets in the last 18 months. From giving excuses to making gaffes, their performance appears wanting. We'll mention a bit of that because one cabinet secretary, Mithika Linturi, is facing impeachment. We'll talk about the process of that entire issue. After the break, stay tuned.